Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Now, historic films made in the spring of 1948 and just released show Enoch preparing for heavily guarded and still largely secret tests of new atomic weapons. The test's purpose is to measure atomic effects on thousands of different materials, 30,000 tons of them, not, as at Bikini, to prove military effectiveness.
San Francisco police say that 9 persons have been arrested in a narcotics raid on the headquarters of the Grateful Dead, a widely popular singing group. 2 members of the group, Rod McKernan and Robert Weir, and their business manager, Danny Rifkin, have been booked on suspicion of possessing narcotics.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
Here we got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, strange lights are causing a viral buzz on YouTube. Could we have caught extraterrestrial activity on a recent newscast? Brandon Arroyo investigates.
As the newscast ended, the controversy began back on September 26th. What is that light shining in the back of the dark night sky?
With coverage reaching all the way back to 1948, for over 70 years, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Now, Fate Magazine Radio is carrying on that tradition of setting the standard in paranormal talk radio as we report and discuss some of the most mysterious and perplexing phenomena imaginable in this strange world of ours. Now, here is your host of Fate Magazine Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Welcome to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I'm so glad that you're joining us here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. My name is Kat Hobson. I am your host, the voice of Fate, as it were, and I am really fortunate for this show that we're going to be bringing you tonight. I have entertained this guest in the past. I am just very excited to be able to bring him to the Fate audience. I think you're going to enjoy him as much as I have. His name is Terje Simonsen. He is from Norway. He has written a book that is absolutely on my shelf in my library. He's brilliant. The book is a short history of nearly everything paranormal, our secret powers, telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition. The book itself is brilliant. More so, to give you a feel for the people who have endorsed him, we have Dr. Dean Radin, who is, did I say that right, Terje? Radin. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight, but I am one of his biggest fans. I can't believe I blew that. I guess if I'm going to get yours right, I'm going to get his wrong. But he has been endorsed by Jeffrey Mishlove, who is the host for the TV series Thinking Aloud. Isn't that a great title? He has been endorsed by, oh my goodness, Herbie Brennan of the New York Times. He is not of the New York Times. He is the author of The Fairy Wars, a New York Times best-selling author. My favorite, I think, though, is Stanley Krypner, who is a psychologist, parapsychologist, and professor of psychology at Saybrook University in Oakland, California. And there is nothing, really, Terje, that somebody has not just come out and said, he's brilliant, relevant to your book. And I think that says a lot about you as well as your book.
Thanks a lot for that, Kat. No, it has been.
I appreciate you being here tonight with us, and I'm just glad to have you. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I want to start things off with a little bit about you, because your book is so full of information, and it covers such a vast array of psi topics. You cover everything, basically. How did you get there? What was your background like?
Well, from the personal point of view, it was experiences I had, or trusted friends telling me stories of the paranormal kind, about healings, about telepathy and such things. And because those, I was a member of a Christian youth club, and because I trusted those people, I had no really reason to disbelieve when they told me about these rather strange things. And also later on, I experienced that my very, say, down-to-earth engineer grandfather, he also told me about such things, that he was able to hear my grandmother approaching the house about half an hour before it happened. And if she had been delayed for some reason, going to a cafe with some friends or something, this apparition of her, this audio apparition of her, would also come later, and this was long before the mobile phones, so they did not communicate in other respects. But this became so regular for him that when he heard, as it were, this in the paranormal way, her approaching the house, he went to the stove to put on dinner, because then he knew from experience that it would be about half an hour before she physically came home. So yes, it's strange. And also my aunt, their daughter had the same experience. She also was able to hear my grandmother before she was arriving home. So as I said, my grandfather was an engineer and a kind of salt of the earth person, and nothing shouting about anything, and he was not religious man in this kind of dogmatic sense, and he had never attended a New Age meeting in his life. So when, as I said, trusted friends, and also my very, say, down-to-earth family was telling me stories of this kind, I had to somehow reckon there to be something more than just the physical.
Well, do you feel that it was that your grandmother's energy was so powerful, or that they were simply so in tune that was happening?
My grandmother was a very kind woman. She was not extremely powerful. I would not say that. So I think it's rather their sensitivity rather than her overwhelming energy that made this connection possible. And also there was another daughter in the family, but I don't think she heard it. And so it might be, say, the personal sensitivity of those perceiving this apparition, or what we should call it. The Norwegian name for this phenomenon is vardøger. And statistics show that this phenomenon is more common in Norway than in other countries for some reason. I wondered quite a lot about that. I have not found a solution to it yet, but it's called by one of our great psychologists, biology professor Georg Hugen. He wrote a book about this phenomenon, and he called it our national paranormal phenomenon. Vardøger. Yes.
Well, has it historically been a strength of the Norwegian people, or is this a really?
Yes, it seems to be. It's quite common in the Norwegian folklore also. It's reported, of course, from other cultures as well. But sociologists of religion, they make statistics about surveys of these kind of things, and the phenomenon is statistically more often reported from Norway than from other, say, Western countries, at least.
Well, I just find that fascinating.
Oh, yes. I wondered quite a lot about this, as I said, but I don't. I have not found a, reasonable explanation for it yet.
Well, I am not aware of one.
Okay.
As a culture.
Yes.
As a people like that.
Could be. And also, as I said, Norway is quite what is called sparsely populated, and people are living lots of valleys, and it's not kind of packed metropolitan kind of society here. So when people are more in contact with nature, generally, it seems to be more often that they also are sensitive towards these psi vibes. So that might be part of the explanation.
Well, that would stand to reason, because the areas that I'm aware of who are strongest with this, the cultures that I'm aware of, would be Native Americans, which I know that my family's tribe were very in tune with spirits of ancestors and spirits of land. So that communication would just follow in line with that. And, I think that with people who, as a culture, would be in danger, such as, European gypsies, especially Eastern European gypsies, who have been shunned and looked down on for centuries.
Yes.
I think that's part of their protection skill. I don't know why that would be the case in Norway, but I think that you do find pockets of people who are more in tune, as you said, with their environment. Being more open.
Yes. And especially in rural areas, there is still some practical application of this phenomenon. For instance, if you go to say small villages and so in Norway, you can find perhaps a person that is able to see where, if some sheep have been lost in the forest, for instance, you can go to this guy and ask him, where are these sheep, and he will be able to tell you. That's clairvoyance, and it seems to be quite common in rural areas, of which there are many in Norway.
That's an aspect I really hadn't considered. So that's just wild to me, because as I'm sitting there thinking about this, as you're saying, I'm like, well, that's absolute truth, because reservations are isolated and rural, and farming communities also. It's just wild, and that would be all over the place. Maybe that's why tribal living is so infused with spiritual nature.
Also, north in Norway, we have the Sami people, earlier called Laps or Laplanders, but they prefer Sami, and they have a very strong culture. They the traditional life of Sami people is reindeer, herding reindeer, and they live on the tundra, and it's just the snow and the night and the silence and so on. There is as I said, very strong culture for these phenomena. Of course, we have computer engineers and quite modern Sami people as well, also in Norwegian politics. But the traditional Sami lifestyle really, disposes for these phenomena. And when you also have, say spirituality that heeds these phenomena and use them for guidance, that somehow it will be self-reinforcing. So we have in modern times some of these Sami traditions. It was repressed both by Christian missionaries and also by, say, modern life in general. But they have come to life much more in modern times, sometimes combined with, say, a New Age philosophy, and it's called neo-shamanism. So, yes. And I have been communicated with a couple of them also, and they somehow tried to, use and utilize the old Sami traditions, which they are really strong. I'm quite impressed. I read quite a lot about this, and also social anthropologists studying the Sami culture have noted already from say the 15th century and so, when the first natural what is called it's so difficult with this English sometimes.
As we found last time when I did not once get your name pronounced right.
Yes, so we'll have to be tolerant to watch each other. Thanks a lot, Kat. No, but already from the 15th century, when the first, explorers went to Sami Ednan, which is the area in north where the Sami lives, they noted a very strong culture, and also they got strong demonstrations from the Nuaidi, and Nuaidi is the name of the Sami shaman. So they got quite overwhelmed by demonstration, especially astral projection, moving consciousness outside the body to see what's going on other places is a very strong traditional Sami feat.
Well, if you've never seen that, if you've never experienced it yourself, I don't know that seeing it would cause one to believe, but definitely experiencing that is overwhelming the first time, if it's not something that you have been doing your entire life. People who teach themselves to do that surprise me, because it doesn't seem that it should be a teachable. It seems that it should be a natural thing. But it is possible both ways. But it is a very unusual experience.
Yes, but as you said, it's teachable, and in Western esotericism, we can go back to my own, history related to these phenomena. In Western esoteric tradition, it's you have really, schools for developing, amongst other things, this feature. We can get back to that a little later. I've studied in Western esoteric traditions at the university, also written about anthroposophy, which is the variety of theosophy that was, launched and developed by the Austrian esoteric teacher Rudolf Steiner, with whom many probably are familiar via this Waldorf school, alternative pedagogics. So that's and that's a very exciting tradition. Also studied Hermeticism, which is the main Renaissance occult tradition. And I also studied quite a lot of Jewish tradition, because they have the very strong spiritual tradition called Kabbalah.
That is very strong.
Yes, and if you go to Kabbalah, for instance, there you will can learn techniques for moving consciousness outside the body, and also say, I don't know if people want instructions because you can find it in the books, but if you say make a double of yourself, you visualize yourself outside yourself, and you somehow build a figure of yourself outside yourself. And when you have done that for a period of time and get a very clear picture of yourself outside yourself, you can try to, with a little snap, move consciousness into that figure. And if you practice that for, say, a couple of months, you should have some success with it. And you mentioned Herbie Brennan. He is, as you said, a fantasy author, New York Times bestselling, but he is also initiated in what they call the order Servants of the Light, which is an occult white, I must stress that strongly, a white occult order. And he said that most people will learn this within some months if they have some talent for it. The most, say, resistant case he had encountered was a guy who needed 7 years before he learned the trick. So,
oh my word! Well, we are at our first break, so I am going to go ahead and stop here. It seems like a good coming back point. So,
yes.
Y'all, thank y'all for listening to us. We will be right back here on Fate Mag Radio. Y'all come back too.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. I'm so glad that you're here because My guest is somebody that I enjoy so much. We're talking about his book, A Short History of Nearly Everything Paranormal. And he is Terje Simonsen. Was that close?
Close, but you had it better in the break.
Okay. But it's still better than last time.
Yes.
I'm going to claim that.
Okay.
Well, I am so interested because Kabbalah practitioners, is that the correct term for Kabbalah?
Well, it's so many traditions. The modern Kabbalah that is followed by, for instance, Madonna is something different from the traditional Jewish Kabbalah. And you also have the Christian Kabbalah that the Renaissance occultists used. They somehow made it their own. So there are lots of different Kabbalistic traditions, at least three main traditions. So, but practitioner is quite a good word for those who doing this. Yes.
Well, for those who are doing this, I know that the division or form that people such as Madonna and others are following with the red bracelets, are those used like to help you to snap into where you're wanting to be relevant to the traveling, the astral spiritual traveling, whether it's making your own doppelganger or something else?
Were you asking about the bracelets now, or
yes, if that's a tool to be used to achieve those goals?
I consult a Kabbalistic rabbi in Israel from time to time, and he also sends kind of bracelets, red bracelets, but they are more for, say, general protection, They believe your energy can be influenced negatively by, say, evil intentions from other persons. So it's more like, yes. So it's more somehow to say, stay focused in your good vibes in a way.
Well, that's really interesting. Thank you. I've always wondered that.
That is at least what I have when the instruction I have gotten with my red bracelets from him, that is protecting the energy. It's also, there's an old tradition in Middle East. Also, Israel is part of the Middle Eastern culture in some way, and the strong tradition about the evil eye. And it's not the eye itself that is evil, really. It's the intention behind the eye, of course. But these bracelets are used as protection for against envy, against negativity, against fear, against hate, and against everything that wants to somehow botch up your energy.
Interesting.
That's
logical, though. I mean, because of the people and their lives that are very public and I would feel vulnerable. I would like to have something of that nature if I were in their shoes. I know that I have my own protections, so
yes,
and I guess everyone does. But
yes,
have you had your very own paranormal experiences? Something that has led you to feel that this was what you needed to share? This was maybe a calling to do this writing?
But of course. Yes, I don't know. It's some months since we were on air last time, so I don't remember. So with the danger of repeating myself, I could mention one episode. Also, you mentioned the Roma people. In Norway, we also have the Roma people, the gypsies, formerly called. But we also have the travelers, which is they have also their own language. And they are in some way related to the Roma in lifestyle and so, and there are also some other cultural connections between them, but they also operate as a separate group, at least here in Norway. But they also have a strong culture for paranormal abilities, and many years ago, before I really knew anything about these things, apart from, say, so small little experiences here and there, I read an article in Norway's supposedly most serious daily journal called Aftenposten. It means the Evening Post. And there was a journalist there that had checked out different psychics, and he was generally not impressed at all. But there was one guy that had impressed him, and because this journalist, he was about to go on a journey, and he had not told this old traveler about this psychic, and this traveler said to him, "I can see you are planning to go on a journey, and you will visit two cities, but you will visit them in the opposite order of what you have now planned. And also there will be a priest approaching you, asking to join you on this journey." And lastly, he told, and you will have very good use for the new camera you just have bought. And this journalist was stunned because he was planning to go, and because of some botch up at the travel agency, he had to go to those two towns. I think it was in North Africa. I think it was Cairo or Marrakesh, this in Morocco. And he had to visit him in opposite direction. And sure enough, this priest approached him and wanted to join him, and also he had just bought a new camera, so he had to confess he was blown away by all this. And because I was going to a date quite soon after, I thought, this is the guy I need to talk to. So I called him and I told him about, yes, I'm going to a date. Can you tell me how that will work out? And he told me, yes, she likes you quite a lot and it will be very nice and so. And he said, and I can tell you, this woman is 1 meter and 64 centimeters tall. And okay, how do you know? I don't know, but I know. So I went to this date, and during it was a very nice evening and so. And of course, I couldn't keep myself back. So I asked, by the way, very casually, I asked, how tall are you? And then she said, 1 meter and 64 centimeters. And it was precisely on the centimeter. And I also checked afterwards, did he just give me the average height of the Norwegian woman? But that is not the case. The average height of a Norwegian woman is 1 meter and 67.5 centimeters. So it was, say, a precise information he gave me. So I had to call him next day and say, I'm stunned. How did you know that? And he told me it was like a process, like a search engine. When you have a search word putting in at Google and you press search, and then you get lots of more or less relevant, related information to the search word. And so he could not decide what was to come to him. He could just receive, say, the information. So he opened the channel and received what he got. And by some coincidence, it could be her father's, say, occupation. It could be the color of the hair of her brother. But what he got from me here was her height, which he passed on to me. I think that might have sparked off my, say, central concept of the book, which is the mental internet. That consciousness
I love that.
is.
Just so
Thank you.
That's a great description.
Thank you. I felt it was very, say, illuminating myself, because by habit we tend to think of consciousness being inside my head or inside your head, but if we instead think of it like a collective field of information, just like the internet, then we get much more grasp on how these things are working. Because then if you have a strong intention, you might be able to send a telepathic email to a friend or family member. And also if you have strong need to know something, you might be able to make a clairvoyant download of information about that specific subject. So think of consciousness as a mental internet, a collective field of information that we all share. Then these phenomena are much more, say, easy to relate to. And so I think, in fact, that idea was born out of that experience with him. And also, I asked him for a further demonstration. And as I said, I could be repeating myself now, but
I don't think you are.
Okay, great. I live in an old house from the 17th century, and it's quite scruffy, but I love it very much. And it's the front is white, and in the middle it's a big double blue door. And the traditional door here in Mandal, the little coastal town where I live in Norway, is green. So it's not possible, to make a good guess about the color of my door, because it's quite untypical. So I asked him. He was then on holiday on the Canary Islands, so we were miles and miles and miles apart. And I was on the phone with him, and I said, please, I am now to visualize my house seen from the front, and please tell me, what do you see? So I was asking him to read my mind directly without any preparation or anything. And as I said, the house is a big white wall, and in the middle, a blue double door. And I asked him to somehow read my thoughts about this. And he paused a few seconds, and then he said, I can see something white, and I can see something blue. So the statistics for being right on the centimeter with the woman, and also for getting both the colors of my house correct, I think the statistics is very, very small there. So I was somehow convinced by that experience. Of course, there are lots of other experiences as well, but that was a kind of what is called foundational experience with telepathy and clairvoyance for me.
Well, it was certainly a strong one.
And so precise, because very often people I interviewed close to 100 professional psychics, I think. And very often they are quite good at getting, say, vague impressions about something. I often compare it to if you are out at sea and you see some bird coming, flying again towards you, and you think it's a seagull. But when it gets a couple of 100 meters closer, you see it's a robin or whatever, some other kind of species of birds. And clairvoyant people will often be very good at giving you, there's something like this or like this coming in your direction. But to give the specific height on the centimeter is very unusual. So the level of precision was what really stunned me with this guy.
How often did you come across that in the 100 psychics that you interviewed?
Not very often, I must say. I will say it's very what the Norwegian expression is dagsform. You from day to day you have varying form. You run better this day than that day, and you do mathematics better one day than the other. So if you meet them on a good day, many are able to give if you ask, for instance, about your lover's heart or anything like that, they can be quite precise, I feel. But say more technical information like the centimeter or kilograms or like that, that's very unusual, I would say, just to make a number 1 out of 10 or even less than that,
Oh, so, my, yeah. Really?
Yes.
That
and
is surprising.
Yes, we can say what you really need to know if we think these abilities are part of our survival kit for doing life in a better way. We don't need to know the precise height of a possible partner, but of course we need to know how that person is disposed towards us. So we could say that even if that information he gave me was impressive, certainly it was, it is also not the most relevant information for survival or for establishing a partnership with this woman. So I would
but
think
he did let you know that she was very disposed towards you.
Yeah, it could be, but I had not. It was our first date, so it's
that
yes.
Wouldn't have really been the thing.
No,
you weren't going to propose that night.
I was definitely not going. I was just going to make the first slow steps towards her, So, but I mentioned quite a stunning episode in my book. I don't know if you've read that far. It's one, not the first or the second or the third chapter even. It was a friend of. I can give that story. I think it will impress several of our listeners. In Norway they also have the national lottery, and it's you can win several million kroner, and that would account for say about $1 million or something like that. And the chances, statistically speaking, for getting that right is 1 to 5 million about. And a friend of mine, a guy I trust, I've been to school for him for 12 years, and he's also not a kind of religious person or New Age, or he's not taking LSD or anything. So I trust him when he tells me this. He had heard that I was writing this book, and we had a, class reunion party, and he came over to me and said, Terje, I heard you were writing a book on paranormal stuff. And I said, yes, I've got a story I want to tell you. And then he told me he had been out drinking, and he had become extremely drunk that night. And while he was sleeping it off, he heard a voice coming to him in the dream that a specific and named friend of his was going to win the lottery. And as I said, there's 1 to 5 million chance to the odds of 1 to 5 million to in fact win the lottery. And also the voice did not only say it is a friend of yours who is going to win the lottery, but the voice also gave the name of that specific friend. Yes. So of course, perhaps 500 people or from your school and from your sport club or whatever, but when you nail it down to one specific person, not just one of your friends, but this one of your friends is going to win the lottery, then it's very, very specific. And about 2 weeks later, he got a phone call from this specific friend. And the conversation went about like, listen up, I got something to tell you. And my friend said with a taken for granted tone of voice, yes, I know, you won the lottery. And in fact, that had happened. He had won the first prize in the lottery, winning several million kroner. So, yes, and that's also extremely precise information,
Well, that is quite something.
It is.
So your friend had no idea the source that came to him with that information. They just gave it to him.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting.
So very interesting. So could it be his higher self? As I said, he's not actively approaching his higher self in any. He's not doing meditation. He's a musician, and they tend to be more intuitive than, say, average people. Yes, they have done experiments with that on Juilliard School of Music, this famous school you have in the U.S. Yes. And their pupils scored quite a lot higher than average people on psi tests. So that could be the solution to this. But he did not say that it was coming from spirit world or anything. He just heard the voice giving the information.
Well, it would have been more helpful to have had the numbers. or
Yes.
whatever is used, whatever is used to do that.
In fact, I will now complicate the matter a bit because it is such a good story. I just give the short version in the book. The slightly longer version is that the voice also said something more. The voice said, after announcing that this named friend of his was going to win the lottery, the voice also said, but you can choose to win this money instead, if you like. And that is very interesting. My friend is quite a wealthy man, and he has, of course, everybody likes a bit more money, but he was not in real need of extra money. He's got a good position, and good job and a substantial amount of money. But this named friend that was first announced as the winner by the voice has struggled economically for quite a lot of time. I think it was after a divorce or something that he lost his house or like that, So he really needed this win. But my friend, as I said, was a wealthy man and did not need it. So my friend, when the voice said there was this option that he himself could win this money, he answered to the voice, "Oh no, just let my friend win them. I don't need them." And that was what happened. So that was a little extra information also, how he eventually would go about to win this money himself. The voice did not tell him. Perhaps he said, yes, please give me the info for how I could give me the numbers. Perhaps the voice would have done that, or perhaps he would just have got a blank, and awaken and nothing would happen. But I think, morally speaking, it was the very right thing to do what he did there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We have to take a break. But
okay.
We will be right back, and y'all come back too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, we are back, and sorry for the abruptness of that, but we were a little past due. And Terje, I am having so much fun with you and enjoying you. I do have a question for you, though, and it is one that is, I think, going to be a lengthy answer. And I don't care. You take what you need for this, because it's I think it matters. Why did you write this book? Why did you put all of this information down? Because I know it was quite a labor.
Well,
what
it's
was your motivation?
We have, say, several levels of motivation. Basically, I'm genuinely fascinated by these phenomena. They always amuse and arouse me in a way. So it's a genuine, just, if you ask a musician, why does he or she play music? Of course, they will say they want a career, they want to support their family and all that. But basically, without the love of music, they are not doing, they will not come far, And that is my, say, basic motivation, my genuine fascination with these phenomena. It feels like when I'm experiencing things like the guy with the date and 1 meter and 64 and all this kind of lots of other things I could tell you. It's expanding my horizon and also my view of myself and my own consciousness. So I like that, to experience that expansion of perspective on my life, So therefore I have done lots of, dedicated lots of time to these phenomena. But also I am a writer before writing this book. I also am a historian of ideas. As I said, I studied esoteric tradition in the West and also got a, classical scholarly education in cultural history. So I've written about other things as well, some texts from antiquity and some Jewish philosophy and some different kind of cultural things also. And I have always written, I've written poems, I've written, drafts from novellas and things. So writing comes quite easily to me. When I started writing this, I was in a period of my life. My mother had just passed away. I was kind of depressed. I have not much money left. And because I was suffering from kind of chronic fatigue syndrome, and that's part of the depression, I suppose. It's not easy to say where the body starts and the soul begins and all that. Yes. Yes, so it's a kind of seamless continuum, this between the body and soul. But my general condition was not very, I was not very vigorous at that time. But my mind was working and my thought was clear in a way. So I mentioned the idea of this for a friend of mine, a very experienced psychotherapist. And he said, you must write a book about this because it will be helpful for very many people. And, I was thinking about that. And he's an experienced psychotherapist. And, when people are in therapy, they often go deep into themselves, and that will often trigger off these kind of phenomena. Yes. So he had experienced this himself, both with clients, I think, but also in his own life. And he felt as a therapist, it was the need to give people a positive, a constructive frame around these phenomena. You cannot just tell them this is madness, or, you have been forgotten your medication, or you're psychotic, or this is just trauma. So that is devaluating people's experiences. So he felt that my perspective on these phenomena was very constructive and would be helpful to both his, but also, people everywhere. So he strongly encouraged me to do this. And I also, there was a kind of funny, or what you could say, meaningful coincidence appearing at that time, because I had, as I said, I have had not much money then, and so I had to somehow take care of my finances. And what is possible in Norway, if you register for a study that is approved by the state, there are some rules for that, but as university studies, you can quite easily get a student loan. So I was wondering, should I just register for that kind of study and get a student loan, or should I dare what is called the daunting task of writing a big book? And I was pondering that decision for about 2 or 3 months, back and forth, become a student, get a loan, or go for this book. And first, I ended on, no, I don't have the energy to write this book. As I said, I was quite depressed and suffering from fatigue and everything, In fact, I was so tired I could hardly go to the store and buy groceries for a period. So I was landing. I was landed on, yes, I will just register as a student and get this student loan, and sent an SMS to the phone company and asking for the phone number for the bank where you get the student loan. But what came back from the phone company was not the phone number for the bank getting student loans. It was the phone number for the Writers Guild.
Really?
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I said that to
well,
myself.
There's your
yes.
direction.
I felt it, like kind of a little sign from my higher self or from my karma, or what should we say?
Somebody
the ultimate
had an opinion.
Yeah, the source gave me this,
Yes.
So I felt I had to, and of course I checked, did I send the right SMS? Did I mix up things? Was it late in night and I perhaps had, because I've had pondering both options, could I have made a mix of this? And, but you have this outbox on the phone as well, you can read the messages you have sent. And I went to this outbox and read through what I have sent to the phone company. And I had asked specifically, please send me the number to this bank for getting the loan for students, and what they sent me back was the number for the Writers Guild. So there was no, it could not have been me having made a mistake or something, So what made this, as I said, we will probably never know. But as many of the listeners know, these probably know, these are what Carl Gustav Jung, the very famous Swiss psychiatrist and mystic, called synchronicity, when you have meaningful coincidences. And I felt strongly this to be one of those. So I applied the Writers Guild for a scholarship. I didn't get in the first round, but in the second round I get one. So, and then I started writing.
So the Writers Guild had scholarships as well.
They have, if you get you make a pilot description of your project, and then you get a publisher to recommend it, and also a good academic that will say this guy is the right person for making this. They have to secure, so they don't just hand out scholarship in East and West. You have to preferably have a publisher already signed up for you, and as I said, some good references from respected scholars, and I got both of that. So yes.
Well, sure, and you'd written all these essays and such also.
Yes.
May I ask, what was your essay on the first book of Enoch referencing?
I will just finish a thought inside my head about the episode I told you, because there were all sorts of other, say, synchronicities happening as well.
Sorry.
But we can, yes. For instance, the publisher made an error in our contract, which later turned out to be very crucial for the success of the book, and so. But we can get back to that later. You wanted me to say about the first book of Enoch. Yes, this book is very important, I think, to understand Christianity, because it's a book which is quoted in the Bible, but it disappeared in antiquity. And it has never been translated into Norwegian. So I felt it was a task somehow to present this book to the Norwegian, say, public life in a way. And because I have written about Jewish philosophy earlier, this publisher was very favorably disposed towards me. So they said yes when I suggested to make, a translation of this book. The first book of Enoch is written in Ge'ez, which is an old Ethiopian language. And there are 4 people in Norway mastering this Ge'ez language. I'm not one of them, regrettably. So I had to contact all those 4 and see who of those could make the translation. And when I have got this guy in place and he had agreed to make a translation of the book, because it's quite big and it's very complicated, yes. I myself made an essay of 84 pages introducing the book, making all the, explaining the concepts, the ideas, where they are coming from, where they have influenced Christianity, also Judaism, and where we can see the heritage of this book in Western cultural history. So that was, the point of this essay.
Well, this was something that fascinates me because in the small village where Eric von Daniken grew up, there is a book, a copy there. But you know what? We have to go to our top of the hour break. I am so sorry. I'm having so much fun with you. I interrupted you because I was going back to your previous writing, and now we have to take a break. But we will be right back, and we will pursue all of the things. So, this is the top of the hour. This is going to be a long break. It's a great time to stretch your legs if you need to. And we're going to be looking for a little bit of good news today. I'm ever hopeful. So, we'll be back. Y'all come back with us.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama. Workplace fashions have changed over the years, but what matters stays the same: your employees. We've been the healthcare partner Alabamians have counted on for decades. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama. We cover what matters.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy says he disagrees with GOP governors in Florida and Texas who are blocking mask mandates as COVID-19 cases spike higher from the Delta variant. Cassidy, a Louisiana physician, says local officials should be listened to if hospital ICUs in a community are full because of rising infections, and school officials want to implement safeguards such as mask wearing.
Whenever politicians mess with public health, usually it doesn't work out well for public health, and ultimately it doesn't work out for the politician, because public health suffers and the American people want public health.
Speaking there on CNN State of the Union. In May, Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued an executive order prohibiting local governments from imposing mask mandates. Last month, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis issued an order barring school districts from requiring children to wear masks for in-person instruction. The Dixie Fire is now the second biggest in California history, spreading to more than 460,000 acres. It's only 21% contained. But as NPR's Amy Held reports, stabilizing conditions in the Sierra Nevada are helping firefighting efforts.
Heavy smoke from the Dixie Fire is helping block the sun and reduce heat. But the dry mountain vegetation remains vulnerable to embers. Here's Plumas County Sheriff Todd Johns.
We have seen erratic behavior with the Dixie Fire. The weather has cooperated for the last few days. That could change, and we are certainly not in the clear yet.
Earlier, dry gusts pushed the Dixie Fire to extreme growth, consuming the town of Greenville and hundreds of homes. Teresa Hatch escaped with her family.
Look at all these people that are in this place now. Where are they going to go?
California's fire season is on track to be the worst on record, as the warming climate makes large, destructive blazes more likely. The Dixie Fire is the biggest among more than 100 active western wildfires. Amy Held, NPR News.
Israel has appointed a veteran peace negotiator to serve as ambassador to the United States. NPR's Daniel Estrin has more from Jerusalem.
Israel's incoming ambassador to the U.S. is Mike Herzog, a longtime defense official who participated in peace negotiations with the Palestinians, Jordan, and Syria. In recent years, he was a fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy think tank. His brother is Israeli President Isaac Herzog. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett says he's appointing Mike Herzog to serve in Washington because of his, quote, in-depth knowledge of the strategic issues facing Israel, especially the Iranian nuclear program. Herzog has advocated a discreet dialogue with the U.S. about Iran, not Israel's confrontational approach during the Obama administration. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Jerusalem.
U.S. futures contracts are trading lower at this hour. Dow futures contract down a fraction after it closed at a record on Friday. NASDAQ futures are down about 0.2%. This is NPR. With the Tokyo Olympics coming to an end today, NPR's Mandalit Del Barco reports the U.S. won more gold medals than any other country.
During the Tokyo Games, the U.S. athletes earned 39 gold medals, 41 silver, and 33 bronze, for a total of 113. Since 1996, the U.S. has led both in the number of gold medals and overall medals, except in 2008 when China picked up more gold. This year, China came in second in the medal count, followed by host nation Japan, which surpassed its record in the previous Summer Olympics. And this time, U.S. female athletes earned more than half the medals for the United States, 66. According to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, if the American women were a separate country, they would have ranked fourth in the world in terms of how many Olympic medals they won. Mandalit Del Barco, NPR News, Tokyo.
Actress Markie Post, best known for playing the public defender in the 1980s sitcom Night Court, has died. Her manager says she died at her home in Los Angeles yesterday after a years-long battle with cancer. Post was a regular on TV for decades, appearing in the top shows of the 1980s, including Cheers, to recent shows like Chicago PD and Scrubs. Her final role was in 2019 in an episode of Netflix's Soundtrack. Markie Post was 70 years old. Crude oil futures are trading lower, down 2% at $66.95 a barrel, in electronic trading on the New York Mercantile Exchange. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. And I am Kat Hobson, your host. I am so excited that you are here. Before we go on, I do want to let you know that we have a new edition coming out. Phyllis is totally on the job, doing so much fantastic work. So if you need to check on the status of your subscription, order an edition, or, if you have a collection, I know a lot of my friends do, then if you're missing something, we have uncirculated archives. Get one. If you have submitted to Fate and you're not sure if your story was carried, well, again, go to the website, fatemag.com, and write to the editor, and she can find out. That happened with one of my guests on the show who, when she was younger, had submitted a really good story. Didn't understand why it wasn't published. Come to find out it was. So she got two issues of the magazine that her story had been covered in. And everybody, Phyllis, and everybody was happy. She had a great experience and something to tell her friends. It was just great. So check it out. And again, they have trading cards. There's t-shirts, and may I just say it's the most comfortable t-shirt I've worn. And if you see me at a con, you'll probably get to check it out. I wear it a lot. But anyway, thank you for being here. FateMag.com is the website. And my guest tonight is just a fantastic person. He also is a fantastic author. He has done a lot of different work, but the one that people seem to just be the most fascinated by is the... Excuse me, Terry. I am on the wrong page, and I don't want to get it wrong because, if I don't look at it, that's exactly what will happen. But it is a short history of nearly everything paranormal, our secret powers, telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition. And, I have been so impressed by our conversations. I just love your book. Your endorsements are off the chain. You've done fantastic work, and we were just talking about how it really was kind of just something was at play. and making it possible. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing so much. And since I had to interrupt you to go to break, I'm going to hush now.
Okay, thanks a lot for having me, Kat.
Thank you. We were talking about the first book of Enoch, and how you came to write an essay about that, which was the backstory for you getting your grant for writing.
Well, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then from that point, I interrupted you, and the floor is yours.
You want me to continue now?
Yes, it's so interesting.
Well, as I said, to make a long story short, my editor had made an error in our contract. So after I had been writing for some months, she said, you have to stop to write now because it's getting much too long, far too big, this book. And I said, no, but I'm just doing what we have signed for. No, you're not. You're writing much too much here. No, I said, just check your contract. And she went and checked her copy of the contract, and I was right, and she had made an error when we signed this. So what she had, in fact, signed up for was a bigger book than what she originally had planned. And I feel that that also was a kind of happy coincidence, because then the book became quite substantial. It's now 540 pages, in fact, so it can defend the name of being a short history of nearly everything paranormal. But if we had if we went for the short version that she originally had planned, it would not be able to get that position as the gate opener to this world, really. And probably it would not have won. It has, I can mention that, perhaps it has won 2 awards in the United States. It won the Parapsychological Book Award, which is quite prestigious, and it also won this spring Nautilus Silver Award, which is also quite prestigious.
Both of those are brilliant.
Dean Radin's book, I think it was that's called Supernormal, won. I don't remember which year it was. I think it was 2016. Was a Silver Nautilus Award. So being at the same level as Dean Radin, that's not a bad thing. Yes, it is.
That will stand up anywhere. And I actually am in the midst of reading his book, so I would recommend it for an award as well.
Oh, yes, Dean is just great. Thank you. I went further on with writing this book, and it was written and published in Norwegian first, and when I was going international, still then it was once more there was money issue, because it's it's difficult to get from a little language as Norwegian to the big languages, as for instance English, and you have to have a translator, and you have lots of issues. And but then, just to make a long story short again, suddenly out of the air, I asked for help from the Norwegian Parapsychological Association. And I explained them that this is the first time in many, many years a Norwegian book about parapsychology is going international. Please help me support this. But they said, no, we won't.
What?
Yes. So, yes, I was very disappointed with them. But then suddenly, shortly after, there was a message on my answering machine from my phone. And there was a woman I have never heard about before, and she presented herself by name and so, and also she had sent me an email. And what turned out, she was a member of honor and the former next leader of the Parapsychological Society. And she completely disagreed with their decision here. And she said, she told me they have lots of money, but they are misers, she said.
That happens.
Yes. And so she said, but this is an excellent project, so I will pay you scholarship out of my own pocket, she said. So that's great, really. So that helped me really much when going international. So and that also happened after I had I've seen an interview, Oprah Winfrey. She made an interview with a very famous American author, Cormac McCarthy. Mm-hmm. And Cormac McCarthy told Oprah about lots of coincidences that had made it possible for him to live without having this 9-to-5 job. And Oprah asked, how is that possible? Many people would like to know how that is possible. And he said, Cormac McCarthy said, I don't know how that's possible, but I know one thing: you have to be dedicated. And I had meditated over this interview and his words. So I had gone for a long walk in the forest after seeing and hearing that interview, and I have somehow dedicated myself to the process of getting this book out and getting it international and getting it very widespread. And 2 days after I have somehow made this promise to myself that yes, I will really go for this book, I got this phone from this strange, totally unknown lady saying she would pay scholarship for me out of her own pockets. So, I feel that there has been so many good, beneficial coincidences, synchronicities guiding this book. And no, I don't know. Yes, there are many more, but I feel somehow I'm going in the right direction with this.
I would say yes.
Thank you.
Well, your success is just so well earned. I feel this book is absolutely a primer for anyone interested in paranormal, parapsychological research, and I feel like it will ultimately, when there is a study, an education program, when we find another way to do that for parapsychology, because in the U.S. that's extraordinarily limited, and as far as accredited, I'm not aware of a program right now that's functional. But I certainly think that this would be included in a curriculum. I do, however, have to tell you that I love your term, a travelogue from the Twilight Zone.
Thank you.
That is so clever. And it's so true. Because some of the things that we experience, see, hear about, and have methods of training for ourselves on are Twilight Zone material. And my research partner is the science side of our things. We both are, but it's always been a joke that we are the woo and the science. And I'm like, I'm science based, but I have skills. You can't belittle the skills because they're what we're studying. We're trying to document and find ways to understand them. But anyway, this would be an excellent source for any kind of educational program relevant to this. And as I said, it's definitely on my shelf.
Thank you. Professor Stanley Krypner, he has been suffering some health issues last couple of years, but he has used my book for education with his students. So that's a great sign. And I also also contacted, there are some universities around the world where they have good professors and accredited education on parapsychology. So I contacted several of them, and they will, most of them have agreed to include the book in recommended literature for their curriculum. So
that's a good decision on their part.
Thank you. Well, what Dean Radin said that, there are lots of, say, excellent researchers within this field, but communicating with, normal folks is a different skill from, say, doing a laboratory test, And if you have lots of graphs and Excel sheets and all that, that might be interested to geeks and nerds, but most folks are not really into that, and so I hope to somehow be a translator from what Dean and all the other great researchers have found, and somehow making it available in a funny and what you can say, understandable way to normal folks, not being interested in the Excel sheets and the statistics necessarily, and also being practical about it. How can I use these phenomena to improve my daily life and make better decisions and get a better job and get better relations with family and all that? Because I think they can be very beneficial for our private lives also. So it's very interesting, philosophical speaking, but it can also be, as we have used the word a couple of times, as a guidance for yes. So that is also as an aspect. It's very interesting to me. What I can be sometimes disappointed with say people into the paranormal, because some of them seem to be very interested in what I call just the entertainment. And even the horror aspect of it, oh, there is a haunted house here, and it scared the big ass out of all my family and all that, which can be a kind of great wake-up call, so there is something more. But just being into the horror and entertainment of things, that is not. That is, say, it's ditching things really, because if you can even risk scaring people away from their natural inheritance here. So, and that would be a pity really, because this is a very valuable inheritance we have here. So I feel should be put to good use in our lives, and also for the benefit of the planet. Stanislav Grof, the famous psychoanalyst and therapist, I quote him in the book, and he says that becoming conscious about, say, man's spiritual nature can even be crucial for our survival on this planet. So just scaring people with gremlins and poltergeists and all that stuff, that is of very limited value in my view.
Well, I would agree with that.
Thank you.
I do need to pause for a brief station identification, so if you'll bear with me, this won't take but a second, or 19.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And business taken care of. I probably have evolved into being just a huge fan of your work. We were laughing about when I was practicing your name earlier. Yeah, I sound like your own cheering section. Mm-hmm. And I think perhaps I'm evolving into that. But I am curious, when you're talking about people utilizing the horror side of this for entertainment purposes only, and maybe trying to gain some notoriety and that type of thing, there is so much that's out there without that being a thing, that if you pay attention to the the whole phenomenon. You know, the telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, just the knowing, the different levels of knowing. That in itself is pretty overwhelming. You don't really need the horror thrown into that. And then the people that do that give investigators and true researchers a bad name because they trespass, they burn down houses they go into. We had that happen here with the Antebellum Mansion in Louisiana at one point. You know, it's really important that in order to be taken seriously as a field, that we maintain a level of professionalism and decorum. What do you think about these people who are, you know, air quotes, paranormal investigators, but who really don't seem to be so?
Well, you know, I feel they are working in a different field from myself in a way. So,
I think so too.
Yes, there's ethical aspect and what I call the existential aspect. Yeah, I think basically both in the paranormal and in the normal world, you should ask for the meaning of things. You know, and what is the meaning of your communication with this person, and what is your meaning? What is the idea? What do you want with your life? And if you have, and most of think deep down, most people are decent persons that want good things for themselves and for other people. Yes. So you should work from that level, you know, how to better communicate, how to advise people better, how to eventually develop healing powers. So if you feel a vocation for that, you know, it's so much good use for these phenomena. So just burning churches or being into, say, horror stuff of different guys. Why are people doing this? You know, I feel it's a derailment of the whole thing, really.
I agree. Because, you know, it's just like when you are, or not you, but collective you, when people are seeking out a medium, for example, or if you, I had never had a reading until I was in New Orleans, and I was in Jackson Square, and this young woman said, you know, I'd like to do a reading for you. And I was like, why? I mean, other than cash, right?
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
She said, your energy is different. I said, okay, but I only have this amount of money to spend. I'm not spending any more, so do whatever you do for this amount of money.
Yes.
So she did a reading, and she was kind of a surprise. And so she pulled out tarot cards and started to do a tarot reading. I said, I told you I only have a set amount of money. Act accordingly. So she did a tarot reading, and she got through, and she said, well, normally my tarots are, $20. I said, well, this one's not, right? Because I told you what I was spending.
Yes.
And so she was a little disgruntled, but she got past herself, and it was really funny because she did not know my name. I never told her my name. I was alone, so no one spoke to me. And I was almost across the square, and I heard someone yell, hey, cat. And I turned around, and she was looking at me, and as soon as I turned around, she turned around and was clearing her table. She had not spoken my name.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I walked back over, and I said, did you need something else from me? And she just kind of looked at me, and she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, why did you call me? She said, I didn't say a thing. I said, I know. Why did you call me? And it was just, her face was just priceless because she was just trying me. But she was working very close to a store where I had been with several other friends and their children when they came down to the area. And the minute you walked into the store, you could feel the negativity, and it was very
palpable.
Strong. Well, they had a practitioner of dark arts in the back doing readings.
Okay.
And so when you walked in the door, you could feel it, and everybody there was snotty. And, you know, it was just really interesting because they recognized what everyone with me, the adults, were gifted.
Yes.
But very quietly so.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting experience because they feel light like light feels dark. And it's almost an adversarial thing from that side. I felt. Have you come across that? Do you feel that the different types of energy react
clearly
with others?
Yes, I would say so many times. And that is something you can learn to discern. I think if you start to do your meditation and become quiet and coming in tune with yourself, or you're deeper and say better levels, I think you will be able to discern what energy is destructive for you and what you need more of. Yes. So that is some of the, say, practical application to learn to feel the vibes, really, and to it's just like say tuning in your musical ability, you know, being learn to how to tune a guitar so it doesn't sound awful, you know, so you can tune your inner instrument better and getting more beautiful sounds for it. So, and therefore also you will learn to know when something is in discord, really. So I have an acquaintance. As I said, please, I might repeat something that I said in our last program. So, but if there are lots of new listeners, they won't mind, I hope. Yes. But one guy I played chess with in Oslo, he was what is called stormester, which means a great master of a grey lodge. I will not say directly dark lodge, but yes, but a grey. And they use Aleister Crowley, you know, this great British occultist, you know, and he was a kind of showman also. So he said he was the most evil man in the world and all that, but probably he was more or less the most egomaniac man in the world, which is kind of evil. But, you know, he was a poser, you know, wanting, you know, to get attention to himself and all that kind of things. But the Norwegian black metal milieu in music, which is quite famous internationally, they were using this guy I was playing chess with as a kind of what is called lodestar, you know, for there, and they were burning down churches in Norway on several occasions, and there were murders in their milieus, you know. So it was quite dark, and I discussed with this guy once and other friend, and, you know, I discussed spirituality and paranormal phenomenon from the perspective of healing, but they were discussing from the perspective of power, you know, and clearly you could feel the, you know, our vibes did not go very well together, to put it that way. So, yeah.
That is, you can feel that too.
Yes, and you know, this other guy had one of his pupils, and this pupil clearly, you could see he was very uneasy about my presence there. So
that's funny when that happens. I think it's
quite natural, you know. It's like two flocks of animals on the savannah, you know, and somehow the zebras and the hyenas, they don't go well together in a way. So yeah,
that's a great example.
Thank you.
Now, I do have a question for you, and this is actually something that you brought out. You brought out Alistair, and you've got there's so many other people that make their name by their negativity or their darkness. And so Crowley was a very strong example. And I do know a bit about him. I came across someone early in my research who was a follower.
Oh, yes.
And so I didn't know very much at that time, and I said, well, tell me.
Mm.
So it was not the picture that I later came to get from my own research, but it was interesting.
Mm.
So
he's a complex figure.
Yes.
Just let me, because one, say, occult master that I like quite a lot, he is called William Ernest Butler. He's passed away many years ago. And he said somehow that you could learn a lot from what Crowley told you about these spheres, even if he was possessed by his enormous ego. So it's possible to learn about, say, the geography of this field, but how to use and behave in this field, that you cannot learn from him. Yeah.
Interesting. But true. I mean, you can learn from everyone.
Yes.
Just depends on if it's a lesson that you care for.
Yes, and also you go there conscious with your say good intention about how to apply what you eventually learn here. Yes.
Well, what would you say are the strongest differences between parapsychology and occultism?
Well, it is a scientific method, really, because occultism is a philosophy and say practice. That's more about say a way of viewing the world, and also techniques for how to deal with, say, this expanded perception of the world that occultism would offer, which can in many ways be a positive thing used with the good intention as the foundation. Yes. Parapsychology is based on scientific methods. So you go into the same field, but you go in with a different attitude. Do not go in, at least the method is not an, say, existential quest. That is more, say, objective. You want to make replication experiments that can be tried by others, not necessarily being convinced of the reality of this field at all. So the scientific method, you make hypotheses, you deduce possible consequences, you test those in the laboratory, and you make, say, statistical and other evaluation. And as I said, it must be testable for other independent researchers that not necessarily share your view of these phenomena. So that is the crux and the core of parapsychology, a scientific method and being objective about the phenomenon. But as I said, occultism is much more of an existential quest about expanding your personal consciousness and learning to apply these things, and also say a philosophy. But yes, so I think that scientific method versus existential quest, I think.
That makes sense. And sounds like it's right on point also.
Thank you.
Well, I have more questions. Before I get to those, because I've interrupted you numerous times.
We're having a just informal conversation, and interruption is just adding to things. So
I don't really do Q&A per se. It's just because I am so interested and I am a student of my guests. I think that I love the conversation, the give and the take.
Yes.
But what is there that I have, derailed your train on that you would like to finish a thought on? Because I know there's got to be several.
Well, I would not use that description. I'm quite comfortable with the way things have been going, so no problem at all. But as I told you, there were quite stunning things happening with this book of mine that has happened on several occasions. And one thing that in hindsight that has puzzled me very much, that was when I was quite young, we're talking back in 1989, I met the probably most impressive psychic that I ever will meet. and she was really reading the future, not as future, but as present, So she described the future not in you will be doing this or you will be doing that, but she described it in present time. I see you doing this, as it happened right before her eyes. And that was very special. I cannot possibly go into details about that, but at that time I had no education, and I was also very, what we can say, homeward bound in a way. I was not having my glance directed to the outside world, outside Norway at all. I had not been traveling since I was a child or since I was a quite young person. So I was not having this, say, I have not put my sight at international scene at all, really. But she went on. I was just interested in the phenomenon itself because she was a famous psychic, and I also was interested about in a girl, and I wanted to know if this girl liked me or. So that was my, say, quite limited horizon when I was with her. But she went on to prophesy a lot about going international, going abroad with things. There would be a big journey. It would change lots in my life, and after this happened with my book, I'm so stunned because quite specific details of what she describes have happening just like she told me. It's I would say it like that. Hadn't I experienced this myself, I would have never believed it. It's just like, as I said, with this 1 meter and 64, which we started the program. It's a level of particular specificness that is, for me, really impossible to imagine before I experience it. And just with this woman back then, she has, say, prophesied things about my future that was so very specific that I would not have believed it unless I had experienced it. I could go on and on with that, but she described in detail person I would meet, a woman looking like that, with that kind of demeanor, with that height, with that look, and it's incredible, really. But what that made me think is, of course, or rethink, is linear time. And I write quite a lot about that in my book, because we tend to think of time as linear. Yes. But as I said, she described the future as being present. So for her, time was not linear. It was not now and back then and in the future. It was all an ever-present now for her. And that was a very, very, what you can say, a crucial experience for me. And I used the, metaphor in my book of a railway. If you, for instance, enter a train in New York and you can going towards California, you cannot see, or Los Angeles then, to make it more specific, you cannot see Los Angeles before when you enter the train in New York. But of course, Los Angeles is there, but you need time before you come there. But it is there already. So that is the perspective from a good psychic, I think, because if you now imagine that you are entering a kind of plane or even a rocket, going up in the air above New York, and you rise and you rise and you rise and you rise and you rise, and you have a very good binocular or a telescope or something. When you are high enough above New York and have a good telescope, you will be able to see Los Angeles already from New York, So it all depends on perspective. Being down at a train station in New York, you will not see Los Angeles, but it is there. Ascending above New York and having a good telescope, you will be able to see Los Angeles already being in New York. So it's just like if you have an, altered state of consciousness, probably you will be able to see parts of the future being, say, around the corner or above the horizon for the normal mind. But that also made me rethink time, as I said, not being linear. And that goes very well with a perspective from quantum physics. It's called block time, and the B theory of time, or eternalism. That is yes, that time, our tendency to regard time as a line is just a limitation of our day-to-day, say, gear of consciousness. So that is, as I said, the experience with this psychic back in 1989 made me think of time as not being linear, but rather as a continuum, already being present, but not being able to be perceived by, say, normal consciousness. I might be, not being very specific here, but it's a very important perspective, because if you believe precognition to be possible, the future must, at some level, at some plane, in some dimension, be present already.
Yes. Well, we have to take our last break, and I hate to interrupt to do this, but we'll be right back. And for those of you in chat, if you have questions, this is your final chance to put them out there. So let her rip, Tater Chip. We'll be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back for the final segment here on Fate Mag Radio. I'm so glad you're here with us. My guest tonight has been fabulous, and he is someone that I am really enjoying. And Terje, I am so glad that you're here. And I know that didn't make the R sound, but I'm still working on that. So, because I'm determined I'm going to have your Norwegian pronunciation correct by the time that we grow old. So, but I am just really so fascinated, and I know I keep saying that. I know that people probably think that I'm a little over the top, but I'm really not. I mean every word of it. This is a societal altering book, and the fact that it's being so well received that the scientific, the parascientific community is coming in such powerful response. Positive response speaks a lot, because it's a community that it's like with Dean Radin. I have attended several of his online lectures. He is a great presenter. There are others who are very outstanding scientists who are not quite that level of presenter because that's not been their focus in their career, and now this is the topic everybody is fascinated by and people want to learn. So, yeah, you have taken the background of an author with the knowledge of paranormal and parapsychological history and research and brought forth a book that is a fantastic resource and reference book for someone willing and wanting to learn more about parapsychological issues as well as paranormal issues and occultism, esotericism. I mean, you cover just about everything, as it says. You know, the whole thing that gets me kind of tickled sometimes here or there is a short history of nearly everything paranormal. You didn't leave much out, my friend.
Thanks a lot for your kind words, Kat. I love that.
Well, you've done well. You really have. This is fascinating. If you were to, we've only got 10 minutes. If you were to say there's one point in all of these talking points that have been put out, the chapters, information, the history that goes with you, if there were a primary goal for this book, what is it?
It would be that people should come to discover themselves as being part of this greater whole, this collective consciousness, this mental internet, and to recognize that and to appreciate that and to eventually use that.
That's awesome. That's definitely a warm fuzzy moment, as people my age will recognize that term. But, it truly is what you're going to get out of this, because part of studying parapsychology, well, really any psychology, but certainly parapsychology, is the recognition that how you interact with it is based on you. Right? So, as you've talked several times, and we've talked about the benefit of meditation, self-knowledge, self-development, coming through, all these various levels of training, different types, and different life experiences, it totally is developing you. So
I can, at least for my own for my own sake, I can say it's been very exciting and rewarding in every respect, and have made me greater appreciate both my own being and my fellow human beings, and also animals and plants. Even I feel sound like an old hippie now, but I feel sometimes when I see those small flowers, by the roadside, I feel they are singing towards me, and I certainly did not feel that some years ago. So I feel that getting more fine-tuned in as a person and a whole being, because you're tuning into the finer and more nuanced levels of yourself.
Yes. Well, if I have to trim a plant, a bush, back, it just slays me. I apologize, which is ridiculous. I would never have actually said that out loud a couple of years ago, right? But I think as we become more attuned, we realize that we're not stagnant individual beings. We are part of the collective consciousness. We are part of more than just here on this planet. It's It is. It is.
So
there is a singing. One of my business cards, my personal business card, actually says, "The earth makes music for those who will listen."
Yes,
and
great.
It does.
Great quote. No, and I also we had a meditation teacher here in Mandal. A friend of mine went to his groups, and and they were coming out from the meditation room out on the street, and there were a little flock, or what is called, of birds. I think it's called starlets. What's it called?
Starlings.
Yes. And he stretched out his arm, and 3 of those birds just jumped on his arm, and then you are in harmony. Yes, because wild animals, and he didn't have any bread crumbs or to allure them with or anything. He just stretched out his arms, and the 3 birds came and landed there, So then you are in harmony. So it's a beautiful thing. And you said with trimming this bush, or the respect for life, really. And I think if you deal with the interact with the paranormal in a positive and a good way, your respect for the life both within you and without you will increase.
Well stated. I agree. Although my husband tends to sometimes think that the word fruitcake hasn't come out. But
fruitcake can be delicious.
I think so.
Yes.
I have not had a delicious fruitcake yet, and I'm old, but I'm ever hopeful. But I'm so overwhelmed by the number of people who are aware of this collectiveness. And I feel like your book helps to understand how that happens, how that's possible. And I don't mean a collectiveness like, militaristic kind of things, but I mean a collectiveness like, as a unified body, we can change the world. We are changing the world.
I used, if you say you have a what is called a well on the farm where you catch water, what is that called? Is it a well or where
a cistern?
A cistern, yeah, cistern where you have a bucket and you pull up water from. What is that called?
That is a well.
Is a well, okay, yeah. If there is a dead rat in the well and you remove that dead rat, the water will be fresher for everybody that will drink of it. Such, if you work on yourself, on your meditation with the paranormal things we discuss here, and so you will contribute to harmonize the collective field of consciousness. It will be, of course, a small contribution, but if many people do that, we will move things in the right direction. So I think it's not just egoistic things. This it's really a kind of good project that will benefit far. The ripples in the water will reach far beyond your own limited horizon.
That's brilliant. Your analogies are good too, as well as your writing.
I should only wish I was able to share them with you and all the listeners in Norwegian, because my Norwegian is in fact quite good, but my English, I feel I always have to cut corners and lose out nuances on every station. So that's, but I'm working on it, so it's improving.
I think that you're doing a very fine job of getting your message across.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. I enjoy speaking with you, and obviously I'm miserable at Norwegian, so just the basic. And I apologize so much for that.
Ombudsman, that's Norwegian word, basically.
Thanks.
People think it's Swedish, but ombudsman, yes.
I didn't realize that people thought that was Swedish.
I've heard it presented as Swedish, but it's really Norwegian. Whereas smörgåsbord is Swedish.
Okay. I'm familiar with that.
No. So, but there's a lot of in some states. Stanley Krypner, in fact, he is of Norwegian heritage. His grandmother was Norwegian, and Stan has asked me to find about his family history in Norway because a publisher has asked him to write his autobiography. So he's working on that now, and I had to find recipes for old Norwegian Christmas cakes for him because he remembered having eaten a couple of special cakes when he was a boy at his grandmother's house. So, and I found the right recipes. So.
Well, those are actually delicious, those Christmas cakes. A friend of mine was of Scandinavian descent, and her grandmother made them.
Yes.
And they were delicious and so
there
special.
Some are very. My favorite is called krumkake. That is, you make a kind of cone. Which is hollow inside, and you fill it with cream and berries, and it's beautiful.
Oh, I bet it is, especially with the variety of berries just showing off against that.
Yes, it's a jam. Mostly, I think it's used jam from strawberries, and as I said, with lots of cream, And if you are a little boy and even a big boy, you'll enjoy that quite a lot. Yeah. So, that was one of the cakes that Stan had remembered. So I had to send him a recipe for that.
Well, I am going to quote him as we close this show out, because I liked, in the course of his endorsement, the closing of it was a book for all seasons or a book for all reasons. And this really is. And I'm so glad that you have been here to share this with me.
Thanks a lot for having me, Kat.
Well, I can't believe we're out of time, but I appreciate you and your patience. Absolutely, your patience. And on this particular show, I always try to close it out with a little bit of positivity as we go into the week, because we do start our work week in America on Mondays.
Yes.
And we're about to have kids going back to school full time, hopefully. They're trying to have mask mandates for children where they're wearing them 24/7, basically. And there's so many things that we are still facing as a society in our country. And all I can say is that if you are not happy with the state that you're living in, not physical state, but emotional or mental state that you're living in, or energetic, you can change that. Because we all have the power to manifest things to make our lives better. And if you are unhappy, then be that change you want to see. Smile. If you're wearing a mask, God help you. I hate them too. But our eyes are where our smiles and our soul are seen. The mouth is just a bonus. So just go out and be the person that you want to have a friend or a parent or a child. Be who you want to be. And take care. Thank you for listening. I am so glad that you were here. And I hope that y'all tune in with us as we go forward. Take care. And, Terje, thank you so much for joining me.
Being here.
Well, I loved you being here too. So y'all take care. Have a great night, and see you next week. Same cat time, same cat channel. Before I go, I do want to let you know that Wednesday night on Paranormal Experienced with Kat Hobson will be Mary Joyce of Starships Over Cashiers, and she has got some juicy info. So be sure you join us. She's a lot of fun.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.